Have you ever met someone who says almost nothing, yet somehow commands the entire room? Someone whose calm presence pulls you in deeper than any flashy performance ever could? What if true attraction wasn't about being louder, funnier, or more extroverted, but about mastering the quiet habits that speak volumes without a single word? And what if the most powerful version of you is not the one who demands attention, but the one who earns deep respect through stillness, depth, and presence? This isn't about surface charm. This is about something deeper, something timeless. In this video, we're going to explore 12 silently attractive habits that aren't rooted in appearance, status, or performance, but in self-mastery. Each one of these habits comes from ancient Stoic wisdom and modern psychological insight, crafted to help you radiate confidence, calm, and quiet influence in a world that's always shouting. You won't just be noticed, you'll be remembered. Not for how much you say, but for how deeply you move people without saying much at all. Let's dive in. Habit 1. Embrace your authentic independence. There's something undeniably magnetic about a person who walks their path without seeking applause. Someone whose confidence doesn't come from compliments, but from within. That's the essence of authentic independence. It's not about being a loner or pushing others away. It's about living with such clarity and conviction that external approval becomes a bonus, not a necessity. When you embrace your authentic independence, you're not trying to stand out. You just do. You command respect not by demanding it, but because people feel the strength in your presence. We live in a world that constantly pulls at us, social media screaming what's trending, people pushing opinions like oxygen, and the subtle pressure to be someone you're not just to feel accepted. But authentic independence is rebellion through self-respect. It's choosing your own values over borrowed beliefs. It's waking up and asking, am I living according to my compass? Or am I still dancing to someone else's rhythm? And when the answer begins to shift in your favor, when you start owning your decisions, your desires, and your direction, that's when something remarkable happens. People notice. Not because you're chasing their gaze, but because they're drawn to someone who clearly knows who they are. You see, real independence doesn't mean you don't care about others. It means you care deeply, just not at the cost of yourself. You're not immune to feedback or blind to relationships. You're simply centered. You have this inner stillness, this unshakable calm, because you've stopped outsourcing your identity. And that calm? That's rare. That's powerful. That's what makes you silently attractive. Being authentically independent means trusting yourself when no one else sees your vision. It's holding your ground in silence while others question your path. It's choosing solitude not because you hate the world, but because you love your own company. And when you reach that place, where you can sit alone and feel whole, you become untouchable. Not in arrogance, but in peace. You're not trying to prove anything. You're just living it. You don't walk into a room and declare your worth. You carry it in your posture, your energy, your eyes. You become someone who doesn't flinch under pressure, who doesn't crumble under criticism, who doesn't beg for belonging. And in that quiet strength, people feel safe around you. They respect your space, your boundaries, your presence, because they can tell you respect yourself first. But let's be honest, getting here isn't easy. It's not glamorous. It's not always comfortable. It means making hard choices. It means walking away from crowds that once made you feel seen. It means standing alone sometimes. Not because you want to, but because your truth requires it. It's the strength to say no when the world screams yes. It's choosing depth over popularity, principles over applause, and in a society obsessed with noise, trends, and validation, that kind of independence is revolutionary. You become a mirror. Your stillness reflects back to others the chaos they carry. Your clarity exposes their confusion. Your calm challenges their insecurity. You don't even have to say a word. Your way of being speaks volumes. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be." V1. Independence isn't found in words or status. It's found in the decision to live fully in alignment with your values, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one claps, even when it's quiet, especially when it's quiet. If you want to develop this habit, begin with solitude, not isolation, but intentional time with yourself. Go for walks with your thoughts. Journal without filters. Sit in silence and ask the hard questions. Who am I when no one's watching? What matters to me? What kind of life do I want to live, even if no one understands it? Next, take inventory of your choices. Are they rooted in fear of judgment? Or are they born from your own convictions? Start making decisions that align with your truth, even in small ways. Speak up when something feels off. Walk away when something doesn't serve your peace. Reclaim your time, your energy, your boundaries. And when people start noticing the change, when they ask why you're different, calmer, more grounded, you won't need to explain. They'll feel it, they'll see it, because authentic independence is felt before it's understood. It's not a performance. It's not a brand. It's the quiet certainty of someone who doesn't need anything to prove they're enough. You're not here to impress. You're here to be real. You're not here to chase approval. You're here to honor your essence. And in doing that, you'll draw the right people, the right energy, the right opportunities, not by force, but by frequency. That's the power of embracing your authentic independence. It doesn't make you louder. It makes you stronger. And in a world full of noise, that kind of silent strength is unforgettable. Habit 2. Master the art of silent elegance. There's a unique power in the presence of someone who doesn't shout to be seen, who doesn't rush to speak, but who simply exists, calm, composed, and deeply rooted. That is the art of silent elegance. It's not about being noticed through noise. It's about being remembered through grace. When you master this art, you carry a kind of energy that draws people in without them even realizing why. It's not loud. It's not demanding. It's quiet, dignified, and utterly magnetic. Silent elegance isn't an act. It's a lifestyle. It's how you walk into a room with poise, how you make eye contact with calm assurance, how your gestures are deliberate rather than frantic. People may not remember what you wore or said, but they'll always remember how your presence made them feel at ease, respected, and intrigued. There's no need for over-explaining or over-performing. Silent elegance speaks in subtleties. The way you pause before responding. The way you listen without interrupting. The way your posture communicates inner strength without a single word. This elegance isn't about being stiff or formal. It's about flow. It's about moving through life with deliberate intention, with respect for the space you take up and for the energy you bring into every interaction. It's about knowing that your value doesn't come from being the loudest voice in the room, but from the quiet confidence behind every word you choose to say, or not say at all. In a world that celebrates chaos, silent elegance is rebellion. In a society obsessed with performance, being calm, centered, and sincere is a radical act. You become the eye of the storm. When others react, you reflect. When others try to impress, you remain grounded. And in that stillness, people lean in. They want to know what you know, feel what you feel, be around that unshakable energy. Think of the most elegant people you've seen, not just the way they looked, but how they moved, how they interacted, how they remained composed no matter the situation. That's not by accident. It's the result of inner discipline, mindfulness, and self-respect. The Stoics spoke endlessly of composure. Marcus Aurelius believed that tranquility was the highest expression of strength. Silent elegance is that tranquility in action. It's grace under pressure. It's dignity in the face of disrespect. It's walking away when you could have exploded. It's smiling softly when you could have boasted. It's responding, not reacting. This kind of presence is rare, because it requires control, not ego. It demands that you know yourself so well that nothing outside of you can throw you off center. To cultivate silent elegance, begin with awareness. How do you move? Are your shoulders tense or relaxed? Is your energy frantic or calm? Start slowing down. Breathe deeper. Speak with intention, not to fill the silence, but to offer something meaningful. Walk as if the ground belongs to you, not out of arrogance, but because you belong here. Choose your clothes not to shout wealth or status, but to reflect a sense of self-respect and simplicity. Silent elegance is never excessive. It's refined. It's in the small details, a clean look, a kind tone, a steady rhythm in how you interact. But more than appearances, elegance is how you treat people. Greet them with sincerity. Make eye contact that says, "I see you." Thank those who serve you. Be gentle in your tone, firm in your boundaries, and consistent in your energy. When you walk into a room, let your energy arrive first, calm, centered, and secure. Let your silence speak before your words do. This isn't about playing a role. It's about becoming someone who doesn't need to announce themselves to be respected. Refinement also means letting go of pettiness. Don't argue over trivial matters. Don't gossip to fit in. Don't chase validation with your words. Instead, master the pause. In that pause, you show depth. You show wisdom. You show you're not here for surface-level approval. You're here to live with depth, to bring peace, to carry yourself with honor. Elegance is restraint, not repression. It's knowing when to express and when to withhold. It's choosing your battles, not because you're afraid to fight, but because some battles are beneath your dignity. When others are loud, your silence becomes noticeable. When others overreact, your composure becomes admirable. When others seek attention, your self-possession becomes desirable. Over time, people will associate your presence with peace. They'll trust you, not because you promised anything, but because you consistently offer calm. And that calm? That's the foundation of influence. That's the foundation of presence. Remember, true elegance isn't about appearing perfect. It's about being whole. It's not about being flawless. It's about being intentional. And the more intentional you are, the more powerful your presence becomes. Silent elegance isn't something you fake for effect. It's something you embody, quietly, until people can't help but notice the difference. The calm in your tone, the control in your body, the lightness in your steps, the kindness in your gaze. Start living as if your energy is your signature. Because it is. People will forget the noise. But they'll remember the presence that moved without sound, spoke without rush, and left them feeling more grounded just by being near it. Mastering the art of silent elegance doesn't require perfection. It requires presence. And presence, when anchored in grace, humility, and self-respect, becomes unforgettable. Habit 3. The subtle scent of sophistication. There's a kind of presence that speaks before you even say a word. It lingers gently in the air, delicate but unforgettable. It doesn't shout, but it stays with people, reminding them of you long after you've walked away. That's the power of a subtle, refined scent, the quiet signature of someone who pays attention, who moves through the world with care, and who understands that true sophistication is never loud. It's in the details. The kind of scent we're talking about isn't overpowering. It doesn't enter the room before you do. And it never chokes the space around you. It's not meant to announce. It's meant to enhance. It's that barely there trace of elegance. The kind that people can't quite name but deeply feel. It whispers self-respect, self-care, and intention, and in the realm of silent attractiveness, it plays an essential role. Why? Because scent is primal. It bypasses logic and memory and goes straight to emotion. One moment of catching the right note, a fresh, clean warmth, a woody calm, a soft floral ease, can trigger connection, nostalgia, or comfort without explanation. That's what makes it powerful. It communicates who you are without forcing a single conversation. It shows you care about the impression you leave, not to seek validation, but because the way you move through life matters to you. You become the kind of person who doesn't just walk with presence. You stay with people through the smallest of impressions. The subtle scent of sophistication is more than just perfume or cologne. It's about the entire experience of being near you. It's the clean scent of fresh clothing. It's the feeling of warmth and order. It's about being intentional with how you care for your body, your space, your habits. Sophistication through scent starts in the shower, continues in your closet, and finishes with one final, conscious detail. It's the art of understanding that refinement begins not in luxury, but in mindfulness, in the ability to say, I value myself enough to care for the details, even the ones that most people will never notice directly. But they do notice. They notice the way they feel around you. They notice that you smell like calm, or energy, or gentleness, and that changes how they see you. It builds silent trust. It builds connection. It builds intrigue. Because when everything else is chaotic, scent brings comfort, and people remember comfort. The Stoics may not have worn designer fragrances, but they were obsessed with harmony and balance. Seneca said, "Let your outer world reflect your inner peace." A subtle scent does just that. It brings your serenity into the space you occupy. It aligns the external with the internal. It creates coherence, and coherence is what people are drawn to. Choosing a scent, then, becomes an act of self-definition. Are you earthy and grounded? Are you light and fresh? Are you warm and intense? The scent you wear should not cover who you are, but reveal it more clearly. Like a soundtrack to a film, it should elevate your energy without overpowering the scene. It's a quiet detail that says, "This is me," thoughtfully, intentionally, effortlessly. More importantly, scent speaks to effort, the kind that goes unnoticed but not unfelt. When people catch that subtle hint, what they really pick up on is your discipline, that you took the time to care, that you honored your space, your energy, and your presence in the world, that you're someone who understands the language of influence isn't always verbal. You're someone who speaks in experience, not in volume. To build this habit, begin by simplifying. Start with cleanliness, with presence, with the basics. Hygiene isn't glamorous, but it's foundational. A fresh breath, well-groomed skin, clean clothes. These are silent signals of pride and intention. Then, elevate. Find a fragrance that aligns with how you want to feel, and how you want others to feel around you. Test it on your skin. See how it evolves over hours. The right scent is not about trend or brand. It's about resonance. And once you find that resonance, make it yours. Apply sparingly. Let it become part of your rhythm, not your performance. But never forget, the scent is only a symbol. It points to the deeper truth, that you are a person of care, of presence, of quiet excellence. That's what makes it so powerful. People may not be able to explain why they lean in when you pass by, why your presence feels calming, or why your memory lingers even when the room is empty. But the truth is, your energy has already made its mark. In a loud world, the softest details often speak the loudest. And your scent, when chosen and worn with intention, becomes a part of your silent vocabulary. It communicates without noise, it connects without effort, and it leaves behind an impression far more lasting than any flashy entrance or perfect line. This is the subtle scent of sophistication, not bottled, but embodied. Master this habit, and you won't need to chase attention. You'll move through the world like a quiet force, not because you're trying to be noticed, but because your presence is already unforgettable. Habit 4. Being fully present. In a world addicted to distraction, there is something almost revolutionary about someone who is truly present. Someone who isn't glancing at their phone mid-conversation. Someone who isn't rehearsing their next line while you're still speaking. Someone whose eyes, body, and spirit are fully with you. That kind of presence? It's rare, it's unforgettable, and it's one of the most magnetic forces in human connection. To be fully present is not to just exist in a space. It is to occupy it with intention, with focus, with heart. It means every part of you is here, now, not lost in past mistakes, not worrying about future outcomes. Just here, listening, breathing, seeing, being. When you're present with someone, even for a moment, you give them a gift they rarely receive in today's world, your undivided attention. And in that moment, something powerful happens. They feel seen, not just heard, seen. They feel like they matter. Like they're not just another voice trying to compete for attention. You'd be surprised how few people ever feel that. And that's exactly why presence is so silently attractive. It creates a quiet intensity, a calm gravity. People lean toward it, often without knowing why. Because when you're fully present, you become safe space. You become clarity. You become the calm in the noise. This isn't about trying to be perfect. It's not about nodding endlessly or fake eye contact. It's about being authentic. It's about choosing to give your energy to the person or task in front of you, not because you have to, but because you choose to. And that choice changes everything. Think about the most meaningful conversations you've ever had. Chances are, they weren't the ones filled with fancy words. They were the ones where someone looked into your eyes and actually listened. Where there was a pause before they answered. Because they were processing, not performing. That's presence. That's connection. And that's the space where real respect and intimacy are born. Stoic philosophy teaches us to anchor ourselves in the moment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." Why? Because the present is the only place where life truly happens. Not in your regrets, not in your projections. Right here, right now. And when you live there fully, you tap into something extraordinary: clarity, peace, and unshakable groundedness. You stop reacting impulsively. You start responding intentionally. You listen more. You stress less. And the people around you? They notice. They feel it. Because presence doesn't have to announce itself. It is felt before it's understood. Being fully present also elevates your emotional intelligence. You begin to notice things that most people miss. A shift in tone, a flicker of doubt in someone's eyes, the silence between someone's words. This level of awareness makes you not only more connected, it makes you more compelling. People trust those who are attuned, who don't just hear the noise, but feel the meaning behind it. You become the person they want to confide in, the one who makes them feel important without ever needing to say it. Presence isn't loud. It's powerful because it doesn't chase, it attracts. It doesn't interrupt, it invites. And that invitation? It's magnetic. To develop this habit, start with your attention. Audit it. Where is it most of the time? Are you constantly drifting in thought? Replaying arguments in your head? Planning what to say next before someone finishes speaking? Presence starts when you stop running. When you stop multitasking your way through life and start devoting your whole self to the moment at hand. Begin small. When someone speaks, actually listen, not just to reply, but to understand. Watch their eyes. Notice the rhythm of their voice. Let their words land before you respond. That pause? That's presence. And it's often more powerful than the response itself. Practice this in solitude too. When you eat, taste your food. When you walk, feel your steps. When you breathe, follow the breath. These moments of mindfulness may seem insignificant, but they train your nervous system to slow down, to focus, to be, and that stillness becomes part of your character. It becomes part of your energy. People will start saying things like, "I don't know what it is about you, but I feel calm around you." And that's exactly it. Calm is the new charisma. Stillness is the new strength. And full presence? It's the new luxury. We chase connection through likes and messages, but forget that the strongest connection happens in the quiet moments, when one person truly pays attention to another. When the phone stays in the pocket, when the mind doesn't wander, when the heart stays open. This is what makes you stand out. Not your achievements, not your image, your attention, your presence. Being fully present won't make you louder. It'll make you deeper. It won't make you the center of attention. It'll make you the center of trust. And trust is what builds relationships, builds influence, builds legacy. It's not built by trying to impress. It's built by being here, being real, being still. If you want to become silently attractive, master the art of presence, not just with others, but with yourself. Be where you are, honor that space, and the people who matter will feel it. You won't need to say much. They'll remember how you made them feel. And that memory? That's the true mark of someone unforgettable. Habit 5. A touch of mystery. In a time when oversharing has become the norm and every moment is broadcasted, there's something incredibly captivating about someone who doesn't reveal everything. A glance that hints at untold stories. A smile that carries a quiet secret. A presence that speaks of layers yet to be discovered. That's the magic of mystery, not the kind that hides in darkness, but the kind that glows just out of reach. A touch of mystery isn't about being cold or closed off. It's about restraint, depth, and self-respect. It's the conscious decision to let people discover you slowly, piece by piece, rather than spilling your entire story in the first 5 minutes. Because what comes too easily is often forgotten just as quickly. But what must be earned, that stays, that lingers. Think about the people who've held your attention the longest. Chances are, they weren't the loudest in the room or the ones who laid their entire lives bare in one conversation. They were the ones who made you wonder, who shared just enough to spark your curiosity, but not so much that you had them all figured out. That's not manipulation, it's magnetism. Humans are naturally drawn to the unknown. We crave discovery. And when someone holds a little bit back, when they reveal themselves with intention and timing, it creates tension, the good kind. The kind that keeps people leaning in, wanting more. Mystery is power. Quiet, elegant power. It doesn't chase. It doesn't explain. It doesn't beg to be understood. It simply is. It walks into the room with calm confidence. Not because it has something to prove, but because it has nothing to explain. And in that space of not knowing, people project. They imagine. They wonder what stories are hiding behind your eyes. What thoughts live in your silence. What experiences have shaped the way you move through the world. That imagination becomes attachment, and that's how you stay unforgettable. But let's make this clear. Being mysterious isn't about building walls. It's not about emotional detachment or trying to be overly complicated. It's about intentional privacy, about choosing what to share, when to share, and with whom. It's about protecting your energy, your heart, and your story, not because you're hiding, but because you value it. You don't give away your depth to be consumed like content. You offer glimpses, gently, to those who've earned the right to witness it. And that selectivity? That's where the allure begins. The Stoics believed in self-restraint as a virtue. Epictetus said, "Be silent, or let your words be worth more than silence." That principle applies not just to speech, but to presence. Your life doesn't need constant narration. Let your actions speak. Let your silence hint. Let your calm say everything. When you choose not to explain every move, not to justify every decision, you create space. Space for curiosity. Space for respect. Space for people to see you as more than just a collection of opinions and facts, but as someone with depth, with soul, with substance. To embody this touch of mystery, start by noticing how much you reveal out of habit. Are you oversharing to feel seen? Are you filling silences just to feel comfortable? Practice holding back, not to create distance, but to create gravity. Speak less, but with more meaning. Reveal stories that matter, but not all at once. Let your personality unfold like chapters, not headlines. When someone asks a question, answer thoughtfully, but don't feel the need to tell your life's history. When they ask about your plans, smile and say, "You'll see." And when they try to define you, let your actions be the only response. Mystery also lives in how you behave. Let people wonder why you're so calm in chaos. Let them notice that you move differently, that you don't follow trends blindly, that you're guided by something internal. Live a layered life. Pursue passions that aren't just for show. Develop interests you don't always talk about. Spend time alone. Be the person who isn't constantly online. constantly available, constantly visible. Let your presence feel intentional. Let your absence feel meaningful. And remember, mystery isn't about being misunderstood. It's about being unrushed. You're not here to fit into anyone's timeline. You're here to be discovered slowly, deeply, truthfully. Let people earn your story. Let them lean closer to understand you. Not because you're holding them at a distance, but because you're inviting them into something sacred. Yourself. In a world where everything is exposed, the one who holds something back becomes the rarest soul in the room. That's who you are becoming, not a puzzle, but a portrait that takes time to see clearly. And the more layers there are to uncover, the more beautiful the discovery becomes. When you live with a touch of mystery, your silence becomes golden, your words become weighted, and your presence becomes unforgettable. People will talk about your calm. They'll remember your stillness. They'll feel drawn to your world without even knowing why. And that quiet curiosity you spark? That's the flame of true attraction. The kind that doesn't burn fast and fade, but simmers, endures, and stays with them long after you're gone. Habit 6. Cultivate cultural wisdom. There's something instantly captivating about a person who speaks not just from their own experience, but from a well of understanding that stretches far beyond themselves. Someone who carries not just knowledge, but empathy, not just opinions, but perspective. This is what cultural wisdom looks like. It's not loud. It doesn't seek to impress. It reveals itself slowly, naturally, and with quiet strength. When you cultivate cultural wisdom, you become the kind of person who can sit at any table, speak to any soul, and see the human thread that runs beneath all the differences. That's a rare power, and in its subtlety, it becomes deeply attractive. Cultural wisdom isn't about listing off how many countries you've visited or how many languages you've picked up a phrase in. It's not about facts or trivia. It's about presence. It's the way you listen to someone from a background different from yours. Not to correct them, but to understand them. It's the way you engage in a conversation with someone whose views challenge yours. Not to dominate, but to reflect and learn. It's how you move through life with curiosity, rather than certainty. That kind of open mind? It's magnetic, because in a world where everyone's trying to prove a point, being someone who simply seeks to understand is incredibly refreshing. The Stoics taught that wisdom begins with acknowledging how little we know. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look beneath the surface. Do not be misled by what you see." Cultural wisdom is that practice in motion. It's the realization that truth is multidimensional, that your worldview is not the default, and that understanding others starts with expanding the boundaries of your own mind. It's not about adopting every belief or tradition. It's about honoring the complexity of being human, and that complexity exists in every language, every custom, every story. When you carry cultural wisdom, your presence becomes richer. You're the one who can hold space for a diverse room without becoming overwhelmed. You're the one whose contributions in conversation feel grounded, because they come from a place of lived insight, not ego. And when you speak, it's not to fill space. It's to add value. People feel that. They lean in, not because you're louder, but because your words carry weight. And that weight? It doesn't come from how much you've memorized. It comes from how deeply you've listened to life, to people, to experiences beyond your own. To cultivate this wisdom, start by asking better questions. Not just, where are you from? But, what shaped the way you see the world? Not, what do you believe? What's the story behind your belief? Cultural wisdom is born from curiosity, not just exposure. You can travel across the globe and still miss the soul of a place if you don't ask the right questions. And you can stay in one city your entire life and develop deep wisdom if you know how to listen, read, and observe with intention. Start consuming content that stretches your mind. Read authors from countries you've never visited. Watch films in languages you don't speak. Learn about historical events that didn't make it into your textbooks. Follow voices that live outside your echo chamber. This kind of learning doesn't just make you informed, it makes you expansive. And people are drawn to that expansion. They feel your openness. They sense that you see them, not through the narrow lens of assumption, but through the wide, clear lens of understanding. Cultural wisdom also lives in humility. It's knowing when to speak and when to hold silence, when to share your view and when to simply receive someone else's. It's realizing that being wise isn't about knowing everything, it's about creating space for everyone to feel like they matter. That kind of grace changes the energy of every room you walk into. It makes people feel safer, more seen, more respected, and that's unforgettable. You don't have to make a performance out of it. Cultural wisdom doesn't show off. It shows up in the way you ask questions, in the way you avoid generalizations, in the way you take the time to learn how to pronounce someone's name, in the way you withhold judgment and choose understanding instead. These aren't grand gestures. They're small moments of respect, of presence, of dignity, and in their quiet consistency, they create an aura of depth around you that words can't fake. People will notice. They'll feel different around you. Like they can breathe a little easier. Like they can speak more honestly. And they might not be able to explain why. But the truth is, your cultural wisdom has created a bridge, a silent invitation to connection that goes beyond the surface. It tells people, you're safe here. You're respected here. You're seen here. That kind of energy doesn't need decoration. It's powerful on its own. It's the kind of presence that doesn't dominate but resonates. That doesn't impress, but impacts. And in a world of noise, that's what makes it unforgettable. Habit 7. The heartbeat of compassion. There's a kind of presence that doesn't announce itself, doesn't need applause, and yet changes the entire energy of a room. It's not sharp, it's not flashy, it's soft, steady, human, and it's one of the most powerful forces of silent attraction, compassion. Real, unfiltered compassion, the kind that doesn't demand anything in return, the kind that sees beyond words and appearances and simply offers space for someone to breathe, to feel, to be. This isn't about grand gestures or dramatic empathy. It's about the quiet, almost invisible force that makes people feel safe in your presence. That's the heartbeat of compassion. When you're around someone who carries this energy, you feel it instantly. Your guard softens. Your words come easier. You don't feel judged. You feel seen. And that changes everything. In a world where most people are focused on how to stand out, the person who focuses on how to show up with patience, with kindness, with warmth, becomes unforgettable. Compassion isn't weakness, it's strength, measured in stillness. It takes far more courage to stay calm when others are reactive, to remain kind when others are harsh, to be open-hearted in a world that can be so quick to close off. The Stoics weren't about suppressing emotion, they were about channeling it wisely. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." That wasn't an invitation to self-criticism, but a reminder that real strength begins with understanding. To lead with compassion isn't to give your energy away to everyone. It's to choose presence over performance. To recognize that sometimes, the most attractive thing about a person isn't how polished they look or how well they speak. It's how deeply they make others feel heard. Compassion is magnetic because it's so rare. Most conversations today are battles of ego, people waiting to talk, not listening to understand. But when you're truly compassionate, your energy shifts. You listen not to fix, not to judge, but to hold space. That kind of listening is a gift. It tells the person across from you, you matter. You don't need to perform for me. You're already enough. And in that space, something powerful happens. Walls come down, trust is built, and you become not just someone people like, but someone they remember. To embody compassion, start with awareness. How do you treat people when you're tired? How do you respond when someone disappoints you? How do you show up when others are struggling, not just the people you admire, but the ones who frustrate you? Compassion doesn't mean excusing bad behavior. It means understanding that behavior comes from somewhere. It means seeing the pain behind the mask, the fear behind the anger, the insecurity behind the arrogance. And instead of reacting to the symptom, you respond to the soul. This kind of depth takes practice. It's not always easy, especially when you're under pressure. But that's what makes it powerful. Compassion isn't just something you extend to others, it starts with yourself. When you're kind to your own mistakes, when you hold space for your own growth, you build the emotional capacity to do the same for others. And from that place, your energy shifts. You stop trying to be impressive. You start becoming real. And real is rare. It's also in the details. The way you speak to the waiter. The way you respond to someone who's clearly anxious. The way you support a friend, not with loud advice, but with quiet presence. You're not always offering solutions. Sometimes you're just offering your being. And that's more than enough. Because when someone feels seen by you, they begin to see themselves more clearly too. You become a mirror of safety, of humanity, of patience. And that's the kind of presence that doesn't fade, it stays. Long after the words are gone, people will remember how they felt in your presence. And here's the thing, compassion doesn't require perfection. It doesn't mean you're always soft or always agreeable. It means you care enough to pause before you speak, to consider the weight of your words, to ask yourself, is what I'm about to say healing or harming? That single moment of reflection can change a conversation, can soften a wound, can remind someone that kindness still exists in the world. You may never know the full impact of your gentle presence, but trust, every act of quiet compassion sends ripples far beyond what you can see. The more you practice compassion, the more attractive you become, not just to others, but to yourself. You begin to feel lighter, freer, stronger, because you're no longer carrying the burden of judgment. You're choosing understanding, and understanding opens doors that confidence alone never could. It connects hearts, it builds bonds, it creates something deeper than admiration, it creates belonging. In a world starving for connection, the one who brings compassion becomes the anchor. Not because they solve everyone's problems, but because their presence says, you're not alone. That message? That's powerful. That's unforgettable. That's the kind of silent presence that moves people without ever raising its voice. Habit 8. Laughter and joy. There's a certain glow that can't be faked. A light that doesn't come from appearance, wealth, or even status, but from within. It's the glow of someone who knows how to smile when life gets heavy. Who knows how to laugh even with a heart that's healing. That kind of person becomes a magnet in any room. Not because they're trying to entertain, but because their energy lifts. Because their presence brightens. Because their joy feels real. Genuine laughter and quiet joy are among the most underrated forms of power. They carry a frequency that cuts through tension, breaks down walls, and instantly makes others feel lighter. Not because everything is perfect, but because someone has chosen, in spite of it all, to find the beauty in being alive. Joy isn't loud. It doesn't need a spotlight or a stage. It's in the way your eyes light up when you talk about something you love. It's in the way you can chuckle at yourself instead of spiraling into self-judgment. It's in the way your presence reassures people that things will be okay, even if they're not right now. When you cultivate joy, you become a source of calm confidence. You radiate resilience. You prove that peace doesn't come from avoiding storms, but from dancing through the rain. And that is irresistibly attractive. Think about the people you're naturally drawn to. They're not always the ones who say the right things or have perfect lives. Often, they're the ones who carry a quiet spark, who laugh in a way that invites others to breathe again, who remind you, through their lightness, that life is still worth enjoying, even in the midst of uncertainty. That's what laughter does. That's what joy gives. It softens the edges of life. And when it's real, when it's not forced or fake, it creates an energy that people crave. An energy that feels like home. The Stoics, often misinterpreted as serious and emotionless, actually believed deeply in this kind of joy. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Joy is a reaction, a decision, a habit. It's not the denial of pain, but the refusal to let pain define you. It's not about pretending to be happy. It's about reclaiming happiness as your right, even when life makes it hard. And when you learn how to do that, when you can find laughter even in the chaos, you unlock a version of yourself that becomes magnetic. Not because you're pretending, but because you've chosen to become stronger than your circumstances. To build this habit, start where you are. Begin by noticing the small things that bring a smile. A favorite song, a silly mistake, a warm drink, a moment of calm. These may seem insignificant, but they're sacred. They're reminders that joy doesn't live in the extraordinary. It lives in the everyday. It lives in presence, in appreciation, in the ability to pause and say, "This is enough. This moment, right here, is beautiful." When you train your mind to see joy in the details, your whole world expands. You become more open, more relaxed, more alive. And that energy? People feel it. Another way to nurture joy is through connection. Surround yourself with people who laugh easily, who see the humor in life's madness, who encourage your lightness rather than feeding your heaviness. Laughter is contagious, so share it. Even in serious environments, even in hard seasons, allow yourself to smile without guilt. Joy doesn't mean you're naive. It means you're strong enough to stay hopeful, to stay open, to stay human. And humanity, that unpolished, imperfect, joyful humanity, is what people fall in love with. Let yourself be playful, not childish. Playful. There's a difference. Playfulness is presence without pressure. It's curiosity without fear. It's the ability to laugh at life's absurdities. knowing that we're all just trying to figure it out. When you show that you don't take yourself too seriously, you create room for others to exhale. You give them permission to be real, to drop the performance, to just be. And that authenticity? That's unforgettable. There's also beauty in laughing through the pain, not by ignoring it, but by transforming it. Some of the most powerful joy comes from those who've known deep sorrow. They've walked through fire and come out glowing, not because the fire didn't burn, but because they found light even in the flames. That kind of joy isn't shallow. It's sacred, it's earned, and when you share it, you remind others of their own strength too. Let your joy be quiet if it needs to be. Let your laughter be soft. Let your happiness be gentle. It doesn't have to be loud to be powerful. In fact, the most magnetic joy is the kind that doesn't need to shout. It just exists, steady, unshaken, alive, and in a world that feels heavy, your joy becomes a form of service, a kind of emotional leadership. You become a beacon, not by teaching, but by being. When people see you smiling in the storm, they don't just admire you, they trust you, because they know that your light isn't conditional. It's chosen, and that choice inspires others to choose it too. To laugh again, to hope again, to believe that maybe, just maybe, joy is still possible. Habit 9. The art of self-care. There's a quiet kind of strength that doesn't require words. A silent power that speaks before you enter the room. It's in the way you move, in the clarity of your eyes, in the calm of your presence. It doesn't demand attention, yet it always earns respect. That strength is born from one thing, self-care. Not the kind that's packaged for social media or wrapped in luxury, but the kind that's rooted in self-respect, in discipline, in the choice to value your own well-being every single day. The art of self-care isn't indulgence. It's alignment. It's a visible reflection of how deeply you honor the life you've been given. When you truly care for yourself, the world notices, even if you say nothing. It's in the way you hold your posture, the way you set boundaries, the way your energy feels centered and grounded. People might not be able to explain it, but they feel it. They feel your balance. They feel your wholeness. Because when you take care of your body, your mind, and your spirit, you begin to radiate a kind of confidence that doesn't need to shout. It simply is. It's in your habits, not your highlights. It's in your rituals, not your resume. And it's in your consistency, not for anyone else's approval, but because you've decided you're worth showing up for. Self-care begins in the small, ordinary moments. It's waking up and drinking water before you reach for your phone. It's choosing foods that fuel your body rather than numb your emotions. It's getting outside for a walk when you'd rather escape into a screen. These aren't glamorous choices, but they're powerful. They're quiet declarations. I respect myself. And when those declarations stack up over days, weeks, and months, they create a life that feels steady. They create a presence that feels magnetic. True self-care is also about saying no. No to what drains you. No to people who ignore your boundaries. No to commitments that don't align with your values. Every no that honors your peace is actually a yes to your power. It's not selfish. It's sacred. Because when you give yourself permission to protect your energy, you show the world how you expect to be treated. You don't have to argue for your worth. You live in a way that reflects it. That's the art. That's the mastery. Self-care that isn't loud, but makes a lasting impression. The Stoics spoke often of self-discipline, of temperance, of choosing what's difficult today in order to live better tomorrow. Seneca said, "A sound mind in a sound body is a short but full description of a happy state." That's what self-care is. It's the daily effort of staying in tune with your needs, your rhythms, your boundaries. It's recognizing that your body is your vessel, your mind is your compass, and your spirit is your anchor. When you treat them with care, you move through the world differently, more grounded, more present, more intentional. To practice this, start by asking yourself, what makes me feel alive? Not just temporarily satisfied, but deeply nourished. Is it a morning routine that anchors your day? Is it journaling, or stretching, or simply going to bed without guilt? Lean into those things. Prioritize them like they matter, because they do. The way you treat yourself behind closed doors shapes how you walk into the world. Every quiet act of self-care becomes a vote for the kind of person you're becoming: calm, resilient, magnetic. And it's not just physical. Emotional self-care is equally essential. It's learning to sit with your feelings instead of suppressing them. It's being kind to yourself when you fail. It's speaking to yourself like someone you love. That inner dialogue? That's where transformation begins. When you shift from criticism to compassion, your energy changes, your choices change. You stop striving to earn love through exhaustion. You start realizing you already are enough, and your life begins to mirror that truth. There's also spiritual self-care. Not necessarily religious, but soulful. It's time spent in silence, in nature, in gratitude. It's disconnecting to reconnect. It's knowing when to go inward to refill what the world drains. When your soul is tended to, your outer world softens. You attract better energy, not by force, but by resonance. You become someone others want to be around, not because you have more, but because you are more balanced, intentional, alive. And yes, self-care requires effort, discipline, commitment, but that's what makes it beautiful. When you care for yourself consistently, especially when no one's watching, you build a deep sense of trust within. You become someone you can rely on, and that inner stability shows. You're not reactive, you're responsive. You're not desperate for validation. You're aligned with your values. And that quiet alignment, it draws people in. It builds trust. It speaks louder than words. In the end, the art of self-care is an act of self-love in motion. It's not a moment. It's a practice, a lifestyle, a devotion to becoming the strongest, calmest, and most whole version of yourself. Not to impress anyone, not to escape anything, but to show up fully for this one life you've been gifted. That energy? It doesn't need to sell itself. It is felt, it is seen, it is respected. Habit 10. Emotional intelligence and social awareness. There's a presence that enters quietly but instantly shifts the atmosphere. A calm energy, a steady gaze, a soft strength. It's not loud. It doesn't dominate the room. It doesn't interrupt to be heard. But somehow, everyone feels it. That presence comes from something deeper than charm or confidence. It comes from emotional intelligence and social awareness. These are not just buzzwords or corporate skills. They are life tools, inner superpowers that, when mastered, make you deeply magnetic without saying much at all. Because the person who can read a room without needing to speak, who can understand others without needing to control, becomes a rare source of comfort in a chaotic world. Emotional intelligence begins with knowing yourself. It's the ability to recognize your own feelings, name them, sit with them, and choose your response rather than letting those feelings take the wheel. It's learning to observe your anger without becoming it. It's hearing your fear without obeying it. It's acknowledging your sadness without letting it drown you. When you carry this kind of inner clarity, you become harder to shake. You don't react just because someone triggered you. You don't spiral just because the energy shifts. You anchor yourself first, and that anchoring creates safety for everyone around you. Social awareness takes this inner knowing and expands it outward. It's the skill of tuning into the emotional current in any space and adjusting with grace. Not manipulation. It's noticing when someone's uncomfortable and shifting the energy gently. It's realizing when silence is needed more than advice. It's holding back when your voice would overpower the moment and stepping forward when your presence could offer support. Social awareness isn't about performance, it's about connection. And when you're socially aware, you become someone others trust without fully understanding why. The Stoics taught that self-mastery is the foundation of all power. Epictetus reminded us that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. That's the essence of emotional intelligence: less talking, more sensing, less reacting, more reflecting, less assuming, more observing. When you cultivate this awareness, people naturally gravitate toward you, not because you entertain them, but because your presence feels like a pause in a world that moves too fast. You become a rare kind of person, the one who stays calm when everyone else is overwhelmed, the one who notices when someone's faking a smile, the one who can disagree without making it a war. That kind of presence is gold. It doesn't sparkle, but it shines. Because it's built on something real, understanding. And people crave understanding more than anything else. To build this habit, start with your emotional reactions. When something frustrates you, ask, what's really happening here? Are you actually angry, or are you tired? Are you actually hurt? Or did an old insecurity just get triggered? The more honest you are with yourself, the more gracefully you'll show up for others. Because the more you understand your own emotional patterns, the less likely you are to project them onto someone else. Then, turn your attention outward. When you're in a conversation, really listen, not to respond, but to receive. Watch people's body language. Feel the temperature of the room. Notice the pauses, the shifts, the subtleties. Social awareness is often found in what's not being said. And when you pick up on those quiet signals, you respond in ways that are more thoughtful, more compassionate, more impactful. Being emotionally intelligent also means knowing that not every emotion needs an audience. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is hold your peace. Not every insult deserves a comeback. Not every challenge needs to be met with fire. Silence, when paired with awareness, becomes a powerful form of control. It says, I see what's happening, but I choose not to be ruled by it. That choice, that self-restraint, is a sign of true mastery. And yes, this kind of awareness makes you attractive, not in the way that turns heads immediately, but in the way that makes people return to you again and again. Because your energy feels grounded, because your words carry intention, because your silence isn't emptiness, it's presence. And that's rare, that's unforgettable, that's magnetic. In relationships, emotional intelligence is everything. It means knowing when to speak and when to listen, when to give space and when to step in. It's what helps you de-escalate conflict, deepen connection, and create lasting trust. When people feel understood by you, they don't just like you, they feel safe with you. And safety is the foundation of every meaningful bond. But emotional intelligence doesn't stop at understanding others. It circles back to how you treat yourself. Can you sit with your own discomfort without numbing it? Can you celebrate yourself without arrogance? Can you give yourself grace when you fall short? That internal relationship sets the tone for all your external ones. And when that relationship is rooted in awareness, compassion, and strength, you glow differently. Not because you're perfect, but because you're present. In the end, emotional intelligence and social awareness are not about being liked. They're about being aligned. Aligned with your values. Aligned with the moment. Aligned with what people need, not just what they say. And when you embody that, you don't just show up in rooms. You shift them, quietly, powerfully, completely. Habit 11. Consistency and reliability. In a world filled with empty promises, broken deadlines, and words that fade as quickly as they're spoken, there's something undeniably powerful about the person who simply shows up. The one who says little, but delivers much. The one who follows through without needing to be reminded. The one who doesn't just promise, they prove. That's what consistency and reliability are all about. And that kind of quiet dependability? It's magnetic, not because it's flashy, but because it's rare. In a culture obsessed with instant results and loud declarations, the person who moves steadily, who honors their word, who builds trust brick by brick, becomes the kind of presence people remember and respect. Consistency is the foundation of character. It's not about being perfect. It's about being predictable in the best way. When people know what to expect from you, your energy, your follow-through, your integrity, they feel safe. And safety is what we're all searching for, even if we don't say it. Emotional safety, professional safety, relational safety. When you consistently show up as your word, when your actions match your values, when your effort isn't seasonal but sustained, you become a lighthouse in someone else's storm. Not because you have the loudest voice, but because you have the most anchored one. Reliability is respect in motion. It's not just showing up when it's easy. It's showing up when it's inconvenient, when it's uncomfortable, when no one's watching. It's keeping a promise you made to yourself, even if no one would know if you broke it. It's replying when you said you would, delivering when you committed, being present when you're needed, not just when it benefits you. In a sea of inconsistency, this level of reliability stands out like gold. It tells people, you can count on me. And those 5 words? They're rare. They're sacred. They build relationships that last, opportunities that grow, and a reputation that quietly speaks louder than any performance ever could. The Stoics lived by this principle. Marcus Aurelius didn't write for applause. He wrote to remind himself how to show up, every day, with discipline, with integrity, with honor. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. He wrote, "Be one." That's the essence of consistency. It's not about debating values. It's about living them, over and over, especially when no one claps, especially when it would be easier not to. Because your true power isn't in what you say you'll do. It's in what you actually do. To build this habit, begin with small things, not because they're easy, but because they create momentum. Wake up when you said you would. Follow through on that promise. Even if it's minor. Be 5 minutes early instead of 5 minutes late. These are more than actions, they're identity statements. Every time you follow through, you reinforce the message. I am someone who can be trusted. And that message? It builds confidence not just in others, but in yourself. There's a quiet kind of magnetism in the person who doesn't need constant motivation because they've built discipline. The person who shows up whether they feel like it or not. Whether it's raining or shining. Whether it's comfortable or stretching. That reliability becomes part of your presence. People notice, even if they don't say it out loud. They remember how you made them feel when you kept your word. They remember how you stood firm when others flaked. They remember that when everything was uncertain, you were the constant. Consistency also reveals emotional maturity, because it means you're not letting every passing feeling dictate your behavior. You're not chasing highs or avoiding lows. You're steady, and that steadiness creates trust. And trust? That's the deepest form of connection. People may be drawn to charisma, but they stay for character. They stay for the person who doesn't disappear when things get hard. The one who's there on the ordinary days. Not just the highlight reel. That's what makes you unforgettable. Not how loud you shine, but how consistently you show up with light. Reliability is also a form of self-respect. When you honor your own word, your own habits, your own standards, you tell the world how to treat you. You stop accepting inconsistency from others because you've raised the bar for yourself. And that bar doesn't need to be high and unreachable. It just needs to be honest. Real. Yours. Every time you live in alignment with your word, you deepen your confidence. You stop second-guessing your worth because you live it daily. And make no mistake, this kind of consistency is rare. Because it's hard. It's not sexy. It's not instantly rewarding. But it's lasting. And in a world of trends, the lasting ones always rise to the top. Whether it's in friendships, love, business, or leadership, the person who can be counted on wins. Not because they forced their way forward, but because they were the ones still standing when everyone else got tired of pretending. In the end, consistency and reliability don't scream for attention. They don't need to. They create results. They create reputation. They create presence. And that presence speaks for itself. You become the one people lean on. The one they trust in silence. The one whose energy doesn't spike and drop, it holds. And that kind of presence? It's unforgettable. It's irreplaceable. It's quietly powerful. Habit 12. Speak less. Mean more. In a world obsessed with noise, where everyone seems to be racing to speak first, to speak louder, to say more, it's the quiet voice that carries the greatest weight. There's something undeniably powerful about someone who doesn't need to dominate the conversation, who doesn't fill silence with filler, who chooses their words like an artist chooses color, with purpose, with restraint, and with meaning. That's the essence of this final habit. Speak less. Mean more. Because real presence doesn't need constant explanation. It doesn't seek validation in volume. It finds power in precision. When someone speaks with intention, people feel it. There's no wasted breath, no rambling for attention, just clean, clear, grounded expression. One sentence, delivered at the right moment, can change the mood of an entire room. One pause, held with confidence, can say more than a paragraph. This is not silence born from insecurity. It's silence born from depth. From knowing that wisdom isn't measured by how much you say, but by how well you understand what needs to be said, and when. And the people who understand this, they don't chase attention. Attention follows them. The Stoics lived by this principle. Epictetus once said, "First learn the meaning of what you say, and then speak, because words are not just sounds, they're tools. They can heal, guide, destroy, or inspire. And when you start treating them that way, when you stop using them carelessly and start speaking only what's necessary and true, your communication transforms. It becomes sharper, quieter, more respected. You become someone people listen to not because you talk often, but because every time you do, it matters. This doesn't mean being distant or cold. It means being present. It means listening, truly listening, not just for your turn to talk, but to understand, to witness, to absorb. When you do speak, it's not to prove your worth. It's to offer something valuable. A perspective, a moment of truth, a question that cuts deeper than any statement could. You're not here to fill the air. You're here to shape it. To shape the energy of the space with clarity, not with clutter. And that kind of presence? It turns heads, quietly. In conversations, the one who speaks less but listens more is the one everyone remembers. Because they don't talk to perform. They talk to connect. They don't rush to be heard. They wait for the moment that actually matters. And when they finally speak, their words land, they resonate, they echo. That's what happens when you combine emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and intention into your communication. You no longer speak from impulse. You speak from clarity. And clarity is power. Speaking less also means you're no longer triggered into argument. You don't need to win every debate. You don't need to defend yourself against every misunderstanding. You've realized that most noise is just ego looking for food. And you've stopped feeding it. That's not weakness. That's control. The highest form of strength is knowing when to stay silent. Not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Because not every moment deserves your voice. And not every conversation requires your presence. When your words come from a place of inner stability, people notice. You don't speak to impress. You speak to influence. And the difference is everything. Influence is subtle. It doesn't overpower. It invites. When you speak less and mean more, people start to lean in. They start to respect the spaces you leave unspoken, just as much as the ones you fill. They start to realize that your silence isn't a lack of opinion, it's a mark of discernment. To build this habit, slow down before you speak. Ask yourself, is what I'm about to say kind? Is it necessary? Is it true? If it's not all three, maybe silence is the stronger choice. Learn to be comfortable with pauses, with eye contact, with moments where your presence does the talking. Observe how your energy shifts when you choose words with care. You'll start to feel lighter, more grounded, more respected. And that respect? It won't come because you demanded it. It will come because you earned it, through restraint, through control, through elegance. And yes, this habit takes courage. It takes strength to hold your tongue when your ego wants to speak. It takes discipline to wait when the world pressures you to react. But that's exactly why it's so attractive. Because it shows maturity, self-possession, power. You become the kind of person who doesn't get dragged into chaos. Who doesn't speak just to fill gaps? Who isn't afraid of silence? And in a world that never stops talking, that kind of calm presence becomes a magnet. Not through noise, but through stillness. When people walk away from a conversation with you, they won't remember everything you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel. They'll remember that you didn't interrupt, that you gave them space, that your words carried weight, and most importantly, They'll remember that they listened to you, because you knew how to listen first. Speak less, mean more. That's how you become unforgettable. You've just unlocked 12 quietly powerful habits, each one designed to transform not just how the world sees you, but how you carry yourself when no one's watching. From the calm grace of silent elegance to the unshakable depth of emotional intelligence. From the strength of consistency to the mysterious weight of saying less but meaning more, this isn't a checklist. It's a lifestyle, a mindset, a silent revolution in how we show up in the world. You don't have to compete for attention when your energy already speaks for itself. You don't need to explain your worth when your presence proves it. And you'll never have to shout when your stillness commands the room. These habits don't ask you to become someone else. They bring you closer to who you've always had the potential to be: calm, magnetic, deeply respected, in a world overflowing with noise. Becoming silently attractive is one of the most courageous things you can do. Because it takes restraint, clarity, and strength to let your actions, not your volume, do the talking. If even one of these habits spoke to your soul, don't just admire it, apply it. Let it shape the way you walk, speak, and live. And if this video lit a fire in you, drop a like. Share it with someone who needs this message. And subscribe to join a community of thinkers, doers, and silent warriors. Because this is only the beginning. Stay grounded, stay intentional, and keep becoming the version of you the world never saw coming, but will never forget.